Going solar when you can't install a rooftop system. That's our Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. Joining us from Solstice is co-founder and CEO Steph Speirs. Hi, Steph.
Hi. Hi, Fred. Thanks for having me.
Well, a pleasure to meet you. Solstice is in what is known as the community solar business. Tell us what that is and how Solstice came about.
Yeah, so community solar is a way to support clean energy locally without having to install solar on your rooftop. And the problem is most of us can't actually put solar on our rooftop. About 4 out of 5 Americans can't do rooftop solar because they're a condo owner or a renter and they don't own the rooftop, so they can't put a system on it. Or their rooftop is disqualified for structural reasons, like there's a tree covering your roof, or your roof is facing the wrong way, or it's made out of the wrong materials. And then lastly, you need to be able to afford either the upfront cost of solar or have a high enough FICO credit score to get solar financing. So that FICO cutoff is usually about 680 or higher, so most people can't do that either. So you're dealing with a lot of people who want to support clean energy but can't do it on their own home. And community solar allows people to subscribe to a local solar farm somewhere in your area, built in your state. And the electricity from the solar farm will flow back to the grid. And you as a subscriber will see a credit that shows up on your monthly utility bill for the solar that's produced by your portion. So it's a community shared solar farm. A lot of people are subscribing to it locally. And so you create the community and community solar by getting a lot of people to come together, put their hand up and say, I want to get community solar. And that allows for the solar farm to actually be built. So that helps the solar farm get financed.
Terrific. So how did Solstice come about?
Yeah, so I was working in a very different world originally. I was working in politics and campaigning, and I was a policymaker in the Obama administration working in the Middle East. And we would be driving through the streets of Sana'a, Yemen, where I was working, and we'd see people lined up waiting for fuel. They couldn't get enough fuel to power their everyday lives. And I had a realization that I didn't need to be halfway across the world working on these geopolitical issues. Back home in America, there were so few people who had access to clean energy. And I thought about my mom, who was a single mom of 3 kids and always struggled to pay the bills. And she would have loved to have this product that is a guaranteed discount on your electricity bill, where you don't have to install anything on your home, so you don't have to be a homeowner, and you can support local clean energy. So looking into community solar, my co-founder Sandhya and I started Solstice to try to make solar access more accessible to everyone. And we've been doing it for a number of years since.
As you mentioned, you don't even have to be a homeowner to take advantage of this. Step us through a little bit how this works for consumers, what they would do.
Yeah, so they can sign up in a few easy minutes, like signing up for a Netflix account. You go to our website, solstice.us, or people will often hear about us through their friends and neighbors based on the way that we reach them in the communities through our local partnerships. So they'll hear about it either through a friend or neighbor, they'll hear about it on our website. They'll sign up in a few easy minutes. Often they'll just have to have an email address and knowledge of their utility bill. Either they can connect their utility bill directly to our software platform, or they can upload a bill. And that makes it easy for us to assign them an allocation in the shared solar farm, because we have to know your electricity usage to know how much of an allocation to give you, because we want to size your allocation in the shared solar farm to be approximately equal to the electricity you use. So they'll sign up and then they've reserved their spot in a forthcoming solar farm that's getting constructed in the coming months. So we tell them updates about the solar farm construction. And for some of your listeners that might not know this fact, solar financing is dependent on signing the customers first. So you don't sign up the customers after the solar farm is built. Actually, pre-reserving your spot in a solar farm gives the financiers the knowledge that, oh, okay, there's going to be a customer, so I'm going to finance the construction of this farm. And after the construction is done, the farm gets interconnected to the grid and electrified, meaning turned on. And the end user customers start to see credits that show up on their monthly utility bill for the solar that's produced by their portion of the solar farm. So they don't have to disconnect from the grid. They don't have to disconnect from their utility. They continue to get their utility bill. They just see a credit that shows up on their monthly utility bill. And Solstice, there are two kinds of regimes for billing across the country because electricity is so state by state regulated. In some states, you'll just see the credit show up on your utility bill, and you continue to pay your utility bill, and everything's consolidated on the utility bill. That's what happens in New York and Illinois. In other states like Massachusetts, you'll start to see Solstice send you a bill for the credits that show up on your utility bill. So there's no utility consolidated billing solution. So those customers will pay for their credits through the Solstice platform really easily on a monthly basis. And they'll always get a discount compared to what they're paying the utility. So if they're normally paying the utility $100 for electricity, they'll pay Solstice $90 for that same amount of electricity reserved in the local solar farm. So generally speaking, people are saving 10% off their electricity bill. That ranges in state to state. For example, in Illinois, you'll get 20% off your electricity supply of your bill, whereas in Massachusetts, you'll get the credit applied to your whole bill, not just the supply portion. But in effect, overall, most people are saving about 10% off their electricity bill. And the last thing I'll say, Fred, is that we have some exciting new projects in Illinois in the official statewide program called Illinois Solar for All, which is a highly vetted program, and Solstice is an approved vendor. And for income qualified customers that have a lower income, they get to save 50% off their electricity supply, which is really meaningful for a lot of people, particularly since electricity rates went up this year.
Absolutely. So you don't build the solar farm, if I understand this correctly. Tell us about the role that you do play, and why that's needed. And I think you're involved in something like 50 or more than 50 projects around the country thus far.
Yeah, more than 55 projects across the country in 6 states. Those are all community solar states, meaning the state legislature has said people can benefit from community solar, i.e. solar not on the rooftop. And we are the customer management and services company for the community solar industry, meaning there are thousands of solar developers. They're very good at finding the land to build solar on, getting the financing to build the solar, and installing the solar through their contracting partners. And those developers tend to only sell back to the utility or maybe sell to one commercial off-taker. And now they want to do community solar because, frankly, it's much more lucrative for them to sell community solar, but they don't know how to find thousands of residential households and businesses and manage the billing and crediting with the utility accounts, because they're not software companies. They're really good developers. They don't deal with sales, marketing, management, and they don't know how to find customers thousands at a time. So they look to partner with us, and we partner with the people who build solar farms, and we manage the customer experience for the life of the 20 to 25-year project. So we go out, and how we find customers is we partner with local organizations on the ground that have the trust of local communities. We share revenues with them, and they help sign up the people in their network. So these are wealth building opportunities for local communities. The solar developers can focus on what they do best, and we can make solar more accessible to more people who have been locked out previously.
Just terrific. You mentioned a little bit about your background, but I think if I read correctly, you have a BA from Yale, a master in public affairs from Princeton, and an MBA from MIT. Remarkable. Why is it that you've chosen to focus on this area? I mean, with that kind of background and your work experience too, you could be doing a lot of things.
That's very nice of you. Thank you. I think the purpose of a privileged education, like the one that I was so lucky to get as a scholarship kid, is to use it to create more opportunities for other people who lack the privilege. Because as I mentioned earlier, I was raised by a mom who didn't win the birth lottery, And she worked in a call center and was told every day to go back to her own country because of her immigrant accent. And yet, in my eyes, she was the most brilliant person. She could have been a much better CEO than I am. And she just never had the opportunity. And talent is universal, but opportunity is not. So there's a part of me that wants to spend my career working on building communities and organizations that create access for people who have been left out. And also, there's also the convenient fact that climate action and clean energy is the biggest driver of economic transformation in this century that we will see. It's such an opportunity to build local economies, to make sure that people don't get left behind in the way that the fossil fuel community left them behind, and they can build wealth through the transformation that the clean economy demands of us in the next few years. So it's both an exciting opportunity to do economic transformation in this country, and also an incredible opportunity to make sure that our new systems we're building in energy, the green economy, doesn't do the same things that the fossil fuel economy does, which is create stratospheres of inequality in this country, which only shoots ourselves in the foot. You know, if there's some people who are suffering and a smaller and smaller number of people who are doing well, the whole economy is not healthy. We're not healthy as a society. And that's the kind of work that I think is the most worthwhile work to do right now, to work at the intersection of climate and inequality. There's so much good work to be done and so much opportunity. So I couldn't imagine doing anything else right now, but thank you for your question.
And you've put together a really remarkable team there as well. You want to talk a little bit about what some of the goals are and how quickly you think you can make this grow?
Yeah, so, you know, by 2030, we basically have to get the majority of people on clean energy, according to the UN's IPCC reports on climate action. You know, the more people that get off fossil fuels now, the less we'll have to reduce carbon emissions by 2030 and 2050. And we are not on track to meet our climate goals, right? Like, we're supposed to get to 1.5 degrees of warming by the end of the century, and we're on track for 2.5 degrees of warming by the end of the century. So we have to move faster, and that requires building a clean energy constituency of more people that actually benefit from clean energy. That requires us signing people faster across the country for both community solar projects, but clean energy projects in general. And so Solstice has a goal of continuing its exponential growth it's had in the last several years in the coming years, as we look to scale the number of people we're plugging into solar farms and the number of people that can do other electricity products that are clean. Part of what our growth entails is actually offering different kinds of products to different customers in our network as we grow.
Terrific. And there are other companies in this community solar business, and sometimes maybe more than one in a given area. Is it competitive? Do you tout your advantages over these others, or tell us what consumers should know?
Yeah, so there are a few reasons why our customers tell us that they work with us. Number one is the service we provide. We've had so many people say, you know, I was treated less well by other companies, and I've always been treated with such warmth and kindness by the people at Solstice. And that's part of what you were talking about, like hiring an incredible team of people who care deeply about taking care of other people and who see their relationship with our customers as a 20 to 25 year relationship, not just a churn and burn relationship that so many energy companies have, unfortunately, historically done. Secondly, we, in the era of the post-Inflation Reduction Act, age, you know, there's a lot of attention rightly on low income inclusion, because that bill makes it much more lucrative for developers to do low income inclusion. But we've been doing it for almost a decade now, and it's not the same as mass market enrollments and management. You really do need to have a special way of reaching out to low-income customers because they're a harder to reach population. You have to message the product differently because there's more education involved. And yet, you know, it makes sense that you want a partner that will work on that low-income inclusion, that has the track record and experience of doing it for many years, and it is not just coming into it because the bill IRA makes it lucrative to do so. So we're seeing a ton more companies enter this space, but having a track record matters to financiers. And then being able to do what you say you will and execute and meet all the milestones required for these projects, meaning signing up people quickly and on time so the projects can get turned on, is really important. And that's what we've always done. Also, because financing is such a big deal in solar, it really does matter that we're the only customer management company in community solar that has parent company ownership, meaning we were just acquired a few months ago by Mitsui, which is an investment company that has an A+ credit rating. So we're not at the whims of the local economy going up and down and raising money on the very volatile stock market. So we're stable and we can help projects get financed with that very stable, consistent balance sheet. And then lastly, our low-income inclusion is backed up by inventing things that are innovative, like an alternative to FICO credit scores for qualifying customers. We created something called the Energy Score, which is based on your utility repayment history. And it's a more inclusive way of qualifying customers than FICO credit scores, which exclude a lot of low-income Americans and communities of color. And it's more accurate at predicting who pays their bills on time compared to FICO credit scores. So it's more inclusive and it's more accurate. And so we're using data science in our software to be able to get more customers to benefit from clean energy. So it's that execution, that great customer service, and the low-income advocacy that's allowed us to continue to grow despite not raising as much money as some other companies in the space. And the last thing I'll say, Fred, to answer your question, is the market penetration for community solar is still so early and so new and so low that we don't worry about competition because we're just concerned with our own service excellence. And if we're excellently delivering service to our customers, then we'll continue to have business. And there's nothing in the 8 years of our operation that showed me otherwise.
Just terrific. And one of the things that I think that you probably have to overcome is skepticism from customers, people saying, okay, that sounds too good to be true, so it must be too good to be true, that kind of thing, because there's no investment up front. People don't have to pay anything, right, for this?
Yeah, totally. So there's no enrollment fees, no sign-up fees. You can cancel at any time with no penalty fee with Solstice specifically. And so people say, wait a second, that sounds too good to be true. Like you said, you don't put anything on my home. I get guaranteed savings on my electricity bill and I don't pay anything up front. What's the catch? And there's not a catch. Community solar is a really, really good product. It's the only product in clean energy that can really help low to moderate income Americans because it doesn't have that upfront cost and added premium on top of what you're paying the utility bill. So that is why it's so important to build that community trust that I mentioned earlier through our community partnerships. This is a super unique part of Solstice. And another reason why we're differentiated with our peers is really sharing our revenues with local community partners allows us to build trust in local communities. And they see that, oh, you're trying to help. You're not just trying to take from our community. And so that building of trust leads to us being able to go and enroll more people for clean energy faster because we have local partners that people already trust. And, they're famous community organizers that have said, you can only move at the speed of trust. And we tack on a saying that trust is not entitled, it's earned. And you have to do the work to earn the trust. Don't parachute into communities and then leave them hanging. Build long-term relationships, really try to build up communities, and that's the way we'll build a different energy system.
Well, congratulations on the work that you're doing there. It really sounds terrific. Full disclosure for the audience, I've signed up through Solstice for a local project here and look forward to that being turned on. Steph Speirs, thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you so much, Fred.